London Real, sponsored by Bulletproof Coffee. Can you walk us through your latest book, The World Until Yesterday? You start off again with a tale in Papua New Guinea. You're at the airport this time, and you're observing the tremendous change this airport's had in, say, the last, 50 years, right? I'm guessing there was a very small airport when you were there in 64, 65.
When I was there in 64, the airport of Port Moresby, which is now the capital of the country of Papua New Guinea, which occupies the eastern half of the island of New Guinea, which is just north of Australia.
Right, and you explained that in the book, so now I got that in my head.
Right. In 1964, the airport consisted of, and mind you, this was the capital of an Australian-mandated territory. The airport consisted of 2 wooden rooms. I arrived there not by jet plane, but by a prop plane, by an overnight flight from Australia. The center of Port Moresby, the capital, consisted of an intersection, and the intersection either there was no traffic light in the capital, or there was one traffic light in the country, and it was at this one intersection. I also remember that the intersection was at the bottom of a hill. In New Guinea, the lingua franca, because there are 1,000 native languages, the language that people use for intercommunication is called Pidgin English or Neo-Melanesian, which sounds like baby talk or like English, but it's got its own grammar. And I remember a sign on the road coming down to the main intersection in the country, and the sign in Pidgin English said, "You no can wheel down long dispella kill," which meant you cannot ride a bicycle down this hill. You no can wheel down long dispella kill.
So you could understand the Pidgin.
I could figure it out.
You could figure it out. And now there's been a massive change, and that's how you start this book out, by just observing the people in the airport and how their lives have changed. Is that about right? Or can you explain the premise behind The World Until Yesterday?
Sure. The Port Moresby Airport today, you arrive there and it looks like a normal airport. There are security screening machines and x-ray machines and baggage agents and people at a counter and computers and people wandering around and signs with the destinations and flashing lights. But you look, and the people, they're not all Americans, they're all New Guineans, and the names of the destinations are not London, Manchester, Edinburgh, but the destinations are Wapenamanda, Goroka, Telefomin. In other words, it looks like an airport as in the rest of the world, but this is New Guinea. And yet in 50 years earlier, there were still lots of people in New Guinea, including some friends of mine, who were still using stone tools. And most people in New Guinea didn't write, and there was not yet a university in New Guinea. In short, in 49 years, New Guinea jumped through changes: the acquisition of writing, the acquisition of airplanes, the acquisition of independent state government, changes that took 5,400 years in the Fertile Crescent and Western Europe. New Guinea has telescoped into a short time the transition from a traditional small-scale society without writing or government to a modern society with government and writing.
And so you like to look at that and then try to make observations about the rest of the world, which has been, quote unquote, civilized, or I know you hate that word civilization because it has a lot of loaded connotations with it. But for someone that doesn't know, this week on London Real, former MI5 intelligence officer turned whistleblower, Annie Machon.
What we're looking at now is a de facto police state. All the laws are in place, they're just not being applied to most citizens yet. I think it's not a case of having anything to hide, it's having a case that I have a right to privacy, and I can't guarantee my government will uphold that right, therefore I need to take the steps to do it.
She talks NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden.
He would die for his country. He wants to try and improve the way his country operates within its own boundaries and protect its citizens. And we seem to forget and think that human rights are a luxury. They're not, they're fundamental, and privacy is one of them.
On Sunday, London Real presents Annie Michon, Whistleblower.
So it's a very British mess, is the short answer.